Hi guys, this is a quick tutorial on how to create vertex animations in Unreal Engine using keyframed animations within 3ds Max. For this tutorial, I'll show you how to create a static mesh like this, which has a material applied to it. That material contains these textures here, which it plays like a flipbook. These textures contain the animation data for each vertex on the model, and you get a result similar to this. So the first thing you need to do is load up 3ds Max, change your units. These need to be centimeters, and the system unit setup needs to be centimeters as well. One caveat to mention is that this tool can only be used on a model that has fewer than 8,192 vertices. This is because the maximum size a texture can be in DirectX 11 is 8,192 pixels in either the X or Y direction. So this is a limitation to be aware of. A possible workaround is if you wanted to split your model up. For the next bit of the tutorial, I'm going to create a model using the populate tool that comes with 3ds Max. If you already have a model, you can skip this part. If you don't have this tool, I'll leave a link in the description. So I'm going to create a flow. And if I hit simulate, we should get some walking characters in our scene. And I'll use this guy here. So I'm going to hit bake selected. And I'm going to click on the flow and then remove the characters I don't need. And then delete the flow. Okay, now we want this guy to be in the same position so that we can move him around in Unreal. So if we click on the root of the skeleton here and then delete all of these keyframes, he'll be in one position. And we can move the character to the center. And now we just need to get it so it's looping seamlessly. I'll start it off there. Maybe try finishing on 170. And see how this looks. It's not great, but it would do for this tutorial. So we've got our walk cycle here. Next thing we need to do is load up the script. This script comes with Unreal Engine. You just have to navigate to your C drive, then to Program Files, Epic Games. Select the engine version that you're using. Go to Engine, Extras, 3ds Max Scripts, and then select the Vertex Animation Tools Max Script, and then drag that into the scene. You should now see this dialog box pop up. It should have automatically set the start time and the end time based on the start frame and end frame that you've set up in the time configuration. Frame skip can be used to optimize the animation if it's particularly long, and I've never actually needed to use this. It's always performed well in Unreal, but I've never used animations that have lasted more than a few hundred frames. So this is a tool that you can use if you need to. Okay, so with this dialog box open, select the skin and then hit Process Animated Meshes. This will prompt you to then save the two textures that it generates. So I'll just call this character animation. And you will notice that it's also created a new mesh in the scene, which has morph export in the title. So I'll just hide unselected. This is the mesh you want to export out of 3ds Max. So we'll hit export selected. And again, I'll just call it character animation. So now we go back to Unreal. And if we hit import, we'll import the model first. Make sure that it is importing as a static mesh, uncheck remove degenerates, uncheck generate lightmap UVs, check combine meshes, do not create materials, and don't import the textures. And then we can hit import. And then if you open up this model here in the static mesh editor and scroll down, this is an important step that you cannot miss out. Otherwise, the vertex animation material won't look good. It will completely break it. Make sure that you check use full precision UVs and set distance field resolution scale to 0. And then you can hit apply changes and save. Okay, so that's the model and that's ready. Now we need to import the textures. So we'll start with the EXR texture. This is for the position of the animation vertices for the model. And then we'll adjust a few settings on that one. Compression settings needs to be HDR. Uncheck sRBG. Filter needs to be set to nearest. MipGen settings, no mipmaps. Texture group needs to be UI. And never stream, make sure that's checked. Then we can hit save. Next one is the normals for the model. So we'll import this one, and again, the settings are almost identical, but the compression settings need to be set to vector displacement. Uncheck sRGB, filter nearest, no mipmaps, UI as the texture group, and never stream, and we'll hit save. So now we've got the model, we've got the textures, we just need to create the material. So we'll create a new material. First thing you need to do in the material is scroll down and change the number of customized UVs to 4. And uncheck tangent space normal. Now if you right click on the graph and search for vertex animation, you should see this Mac script pop up. We'll select that one. Plug in the UV3 there, plug in the UV2 there, plug in the world position offset to the world position offset, and vertex normal into normal. And now we'll get the textures in. If we click on the material tab, we can drag it down like this and go back to our content browser, and then with our textures selected, just drag them in. Then we can redock this tab. Now we've got the textures in, we just need to convert them both to texture objects. So we just hit right click and then convert to texture object. We'll do that for both. So now we've got both the textures into the material, we just need to hook them up. So the texture for the normals needs to just go into morph normal, and then the texture for the position of the vertices needs to go into morph texture. The other one we need to give an input to is number of morph targets. This is the number of frames in the animation, and you can find that out from loading up the texture here and looking at the resolution. So the number of vertices is 1,391, and the number of frames is 40. So we'll use a value of 40. We'll create a scalar 1 value by holding 1 and clicking, and we'll drag that in and give that a value of 40. And the last one we need to connect up is a time node to morph animation. And one other thing I'll do is I'll just add a texture just so we can see what's going on when we're looking at the animation in the world. And I'll hit save. My computer is sounding like it's about to take off, so this might take a moment just to save. So we can see something's going on in the material there. Doesn't really make much sense at the moment, but when you drag this on, you can see the animation there is working as we expected. One little tip is when you have multiple characters, you can see that the animation synchronizes up and it can look a bit weird. So if you're using these characters within blueprints, you can offset the time by just adding a scalar parameter and then changing that for each character within the blueprint and then adding that to the time. This can just be a small value, just a very low value for the scalar parameter added to the time can really help offset the animation just enough that it doesn't synchronize up with all the other ones. And you can also, if you're using this with instance static meshes, you can add a per instance random, and then that way you don't have to worry about all the characters instanced off the static mesh all being completely in sync. You can use that and then connect it that way. Okay guys, that's it for this tutorial. I hope that's helped you. Please leave any comments if you have any questions, and please subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.